Millionaire CEO froze in the store after seeing his ex-wife return baby formula she couldn't afford. And that brings me to you, my beautiful family. I need to speak to you honestly, heart to heart. I look at the analytics of this channel and my soul feels heavy. I see that thousands of you are watching these stories every single day. You take the emotion, you take the lessons, you take the healing, but you leave without joining the family. Why? Is my hard work not worth a single click? It hurts me to see the silence. If you have ever felt the pain of being ignored or unappreciated, do not do that to me today. Break the silence. Hit that subscribe button right now. Show me that you are not just a ghost passing through. Show me you are real. Now, let's begin the story. 4 years ago, life was a masterpiece painted in gold. Or at least, that was how it looks to Ava Thorne. She was 26 years old, a brilliant junior architect at Sterling Pharmaceuticals, and she was in possession of a secret that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. She was in love with the CEO's son. Dominic Sterling was everything the tabloids said he wasn't. They called him the Ice Prince, the cold, calculating heir to a billion-dollar empire. But Ava knew the man behind the suit. She knew the Dominic who liked burnt toast, who read poetry when he thought no one was looking, and who was desperate to escape the suffocating shadow of his father, Elias. They had been dating for 2 years in secret. They lived in a converted loft in downtown San Diego that smelled of sea salt, drafting paper, and Dominic's expensive cologne. They talked about the future in hushed tones under the covers, building a world where the name Sterling didn't matter. Then came the Tuesday that shattered the world. Ava sat on the crinkly paper of the doctor's exam table, staring at the ultrasound monitor. The room was cold, but her blood was rushing hot through her veins. "There it is," the doctor said, pointing to a tiny rhythmic flutter on the grainy screen. 6 weeks along, strong heartbeat. A baby. Ava walked out of the clinic floating 3 inches off the ground. She wasn't scared. She knew Dominic. She knew he wanted a family more than anything, a real family, not the corporate merger his parents had called a marriage. This baby was their ticket out. It was their excuse to finally stand up to Elias and say, "We are a family, and we are doing things our way." She drove straight to the Sterling Pharmaceuticals headquarters. She didn't call first. This wasn't news for a text message. She wanted to see his eyes light up. She wanted to feel his arms around her. She swiped her employee badge, she still worked there after all, and took the private elevator to the penthouse suite. The receptionist, a kind woman named Margaret, who suspected their relationship but kept the secret, gave her a warm nod. "He's in, honey. Go on back." Ava took a deep breath. She smoothed her dress over her flat stomach. She pushed open the heavy oak doors to Dominic's office, a smile already blooming on her face. "Dom, I have the most incredible—" She stopped, dead. Dominic wasn't there. Sitting behind the massive ebony desk, bathed in the harsh afternoon light, was Elias Sterling. The patriarch was 65 years old, with silver hair, eyes like polished flint, and a soul made of ledger sheets. He didn't look up from the file he was reading. The air in the room instantly dropped 20 degrees. "Miss Thorne," Elias said, his voice dry as dust. "You are early. Security wasn't supposed to bring you up for another 10 minutes. Ava gripped the strap of her purse. "Where's Dominic?" "Dominic is in London," Elias lied smoothly. Ava frowned. Dominic had texted her an hour ago. He was down the hall in conference room B. But she didn't correct the old man. Something in his tone told her that arguing would be dangerous. "He asked me to handle this unpleasant business," Elias continued, closing the file. "What business?" Elias finally looked up. His gaze was physical, a weight that pressed her into the floor. He slid a folder across the polished desk. "We know about your condition," he said. Ava froze. Her hand went instinctively to her stomach. "How?" "I monitor everything in this building, Ava. Your internet searches, your medical insurance claims. I know you visited the OBGYN this morning. I know you are pregnant." He stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city he treated like a chessboard. "Dominic knows, too," Elias lied smoothly. "That's a lie," Ava said, her voice shaking but defiant. "Dominic loves me. He wants this." "Dominic loves his inheritance," Elias corrected, turning back to face her. "He loves the life I provide for him. He loves the power, and he knows that a child with a junior architect from a no-name family, a girl from the wrong side of the tracks, is not part of the strategic plan. He walked back to the desk and leaned over it, invading her space. He asked me to make you an offer, a generous one, to fix the mistake. He pointed to the folder. Ava opened it with trembling fingers. Inside sat a check, $5 million, and underneath it a thick document, a non-disclosure agreement and a voluntary termination of parental rights. Sign it, Elias said. Take the money. Terminate the pregnancy. Move to Europe. Start a new life where no one knows your name. I won't, Ava whispered. The horror was rising in her throat, choking her. I'm keeping my baby, and I'm going to tell Dominic myself. I'm going to walk down that hall and find him. Elias sighed. It was a sound of deep disappointment, like a teacher with a slow student. He pressed a button on his desk phone. I was afraid you would be difficult. He opened a second folder. He fanned out a series of photographs on the desk. Ava looked down. There was a photo of her meeting with a rival architect last week, a simple networking coffee. There was a photo of her laptop screen showing files downloading. There was a time-stamped log of her accessing the secure server from home. Corporate espionage, Elias said calmly. Theft of trade secrets. Industrial sabotage. Ava gasped. I didn't steal anything. I was working from home. That meeting was just coffee. It doesn't matter what you did, Elias said, his voice cold as ice. It matters what I can prove, and I have the best lawyers in the world. I can make a jury believe you were selling our patents to the highest bidder. He leaned closer. Here is your choice, Ava. Listen carefully, because I will say it once. He held up one finger. Option A, you take the money. You sign the papers saying you took the money, and you leave the building. You leave the state, and you never contact Dominic again. You let him believe you sold him out. He held up a second finger.
Option B, I have you arrested right now. Security is waiting outside. You go to federal prison. You give birth in a cell, in chains. And because you will be a convicted felon, the state will take that baby away from you the second it takes its first breath. You will never see your child again. The room spun. Ava gripped the edge of the desk to keep from falling. She thought of Dominic. If he really loved her, he would save her. But Elias was so certain, so powerful. If she screamed for Dominic, would he hear her, or would Elias have her in handcuffs before she could utter a word? She thought of the tiny flutter on the screen, the heartbeat. She couldn't go to prison. She couldn't let her baby be born into the system. She couldn't risk her child's life on the gamble that Dominic could stop his father. Elias Sterling was a monster, and monsters won. Ava sobbed, a sound of pure defeat. I'll sign. Good choice. She signed the papers with a shaking hand. Her signature looked jagged, broken. She pushed the papers back to him, but she left the check on the desk. I don't want your money, she spat, wiping tears from her cheeks. Take it, Elias said. You'll need it. Raising a bastard is expensive. I would rather starve, Ava said. I would rather die in the gutter than take a penny from you. She turned and ran. She ran out of the office, past the receptionist, who looked away in shame. She ran out of the building. She went back to the loft, packed a bag in 10 minutes, and left her key on the counter. She didn't leave a note. Elias had told her what would happen if she did. If you try to contact him, the deal is off, and the police come knocking. She walked out into the rain, alone, pregnant, and terrified. She had saved her baby, but she had lost her life. Before we see the devastating aftermath, I want to send a blessing to your home. May God protect the hand that presses the subscribe button today. May your family be shielded from betrayal like this, and may your pockets never be empty. I am praying for you. Will you support me? If you believe in the power of a mother's prayer, do not scroll past this. Subscribe and claim this blessing for your household. 2 hours later, Dominic Sterling walked into his office. He was whistling. He had just closed the London deal over video conference. He was ready to celebrate with Ava. Where is she? He asked his father, who was still sitting behind the desk. Reception said Ava came up ages ago. Elias looked at his son. He arranged his face into a mask of deep paternal sorrow. He stood up and walked around the desk, placing a hand on Dominic's shoulder. "She came, son," Elias said, "and she left." "Left? What do you mean?" "She came to see me," Elias lied. "She told me she was pregnant." Dominic's heart leapt. "She is? That's amazing. Where is she? I need to—" "Dominic, stop." Elias squeezed his shoulder hard. "She didn't come to share the good news. She came to negotiate." "Negotiate?" Elias handed Dominic a piece of paper. It was a letter typed on Ava's stationery. It had her signature at the bottom, the jagged, broken signature Elias had just scanned from the NDA she signed under duress. "Dominic, your father made me an offer I couldn't resist. $5 million is a lot of money for a girl like me. I'm sorry, but I can't be tied down to a family or a husband. I'm young. I want to see the world. I'm going to Paris. I've taken care of the pregnancy situation. Don't come looking for me. The money will keep me warm. Love, Ava." Dominic read the letter. The words swam before his eyes. $5 million. Taken care of the situation, he whispered, his voice cracking. "She took the money?" "She demanded it," Elias said. "She said she was pregnant, Dominic, and she used it as leverage. She said she never loved you. She just loved the access." Dominic felt his heart turn to stone. The woman he loved, the woman he wanted to marry, the woman he thought was different. She had sold their love and their unborn child for a check. "She's gone?" Dominic asked, looking at the empty door. "She's gone, son. I'm sorry. I tried to stop her." Dominic crumpled the letter in his fist. He walked to the window. He looked out at the rainy city where Ava was currently running for her life, though he didn't know it. He felt a coldness settling over him, a frost that would last for 4 years. "Let her go," Dominic said, his voice dead. "She was never worth it." "I see many people passing through, but I am looking for my true family. There are people who watch and leave, and there are people who stay and build this home with me. Which one are you? If you are truly with the story, gentlemen, if your loyalty is not fake, prove it right now. Go to the comments and write, 'I am here.' Those 3 words mean everything to me. Do not let me feel alone today."
Ava Thorne ran until the skyline of downtown San Diego was a blur in her rearview mirror. She didn't stop until the gaslight blinked angrily at her, forcing her to pull off into a neighborhood she had only seen on the news, the kind of place where the streetlights flickered ominously and the buildings were covered in layers of graffiti. She couldn't go to a hotel. Elias would track her credit card in seconds. She couldn't go to her friends. Elias would threaten them, maybe ruin their careers too. She was a ghost now. She had to disappear. She found a motel that rented rooms by the week for cash, the Sunrise Inn. It was a generous name for a place that smelled of stale cigarettes, bleach, and despair. The carpet was sticky. The lock on the door looked like a suggestion rather than a barrier. Ava sat on the edge of the sagging mattress. She opened her purse and counted the cash she had withdrawn from the ATM before leaving. $300. That was it? That was her entire life savings. "Okay," she whispered to the empty room, her hand trembling as she touched her stomach. "Okay, we can do this." She went to the bathroom and looked in the mirror. She saw a scared girl. She needed to see a survivor. She took a pair of scissors from her sewing kit and cut her long blonde hair, the hair Dominic used to love running his fingers through. She dyed it a dull brown with a box kit from the pharmacy. She changed her name. She became Ava Rose. It sounded soft, but she knew thorns had roses, and she would need to be sharp to survive. She found a job cleaning offices at night. It was grueling work. She scrubbed toilets in buildings where people like Dominic made $1-million deals. She emptied trash cans filled with the remnants of expensive lunches she could never afford, half-eaten sandwiches, discarded coffees. Her back ached constantly as the baby grew. Her feet swelled until her cheap sneakers felt like vices. She ate ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches, saving every penny for the baby. She didn't go to a doctor because she had no insurance and was terrified Elias would find her if she entered the system. Leo was born on a humid night in August. She labored alone in a charity hospital ward. There was no private room, no flowers, no husband holding her hand, just a kind nurse named Maria who wiped her forehead with a cool cloth and told her she was doing great. When Leo came out, he didn't cry. The room went silent. Ava's heart stopped. She tried to sit up. Why isn't he crying? He's struggling to breathe, the doctor said, his voice urgent. Code Blue, NICU team, now. They whisked him away before she could even touch him. Ava lay on the table, empty and terrified, watching the doors swing shut on the only thing she had left in the world. It took 3 days before she could hold him. He was tiny. He had tubes in his nose. The doctor explained it. Severe asthma, underdeveloped lungs, allergies to standard formulas. He would need specialized care. He would need expensive medicine. He's a fighter, the doctor said, but it's going to be expensive. Ava looked at her son. He had Dominic's nose. He had Dominic's chin. He was perfect, and he was sick. I don't care, Ava whispered, pressing a kiss to his forehead. I promise you, Leo, I will figure it out. It hurts me when I see the views go up, but the subscribers stay the same. It feels like inviting a guest into your home, feeding them, and having them leave without saying thank you. I am feeding your soul with these stories. Please do not leave without saying thank you. It takes 1 click to like this video. Don't ignore this small request. Show me that manners and gratitude still exist in this world. The next 4 years were a blur of exhaustion and grit. Ava worked 3 jobs. She cleaned offices at night, she stocked shelves at a grocery store in the early morning, and during the few hours Leo was in subsidized daycare, she studied. She couldn't be an architect anymore. Elias had blacklisted her name in every firm in the state. If she applied anywhere, the background check would flag the corporate espionage lie. But she could be something else. She started designing community gardens. It started small, a vacant lot in her neighborhood that was filled with trash and needles. She sketched a plan on a napkin, raised beds, a rainwater collection system, a small playground for the kids. She pitched it to the city council. They gave her a microgrant of $500. She built it herself. She dug the dirt until her hands blistered. She planted the seeds. She built the benches with reclaimed wood she found in dumpsters. The neighborhood loved it. It became a sanctuary, a place where mothers could sit while their kids played safely, a place where green things grew in the concrete jungle. Other neighborhoods noticed. Ava started getting commissions, small ones, $500 here, $1,000 there. It wasn't a fortune, but it was hers. It was honest work. But Leo's medical bills were a constant tide, threatening to drown her. The inhalers cost $300 a month. The specialized hypoallergenic formula, the only kind his stomach could handle, was $60 a can. Ava skipped meals. She wore clothes from the thrift store. She patched her shoes with duct tape. She sold her plasma. Every time she looked at Leo, healthy and laughing, she knew it was worth it. But every time the rent was due, the panic returned. On Tuesday in November, the tide finally rose too high. Leo had a bad week. The Santa Ana winds kicked up dust and his asthma flared. He needed a nebulizer treatment and a new round of steroids. The bill wiped out her checking account. She had $14 left until payday on Friday. She opened the cupboard. 1 scoop of formula left in the can. She looked at Leo. He was playing with a wooden block, coughing slightly. He needed his special milk. He needed to be strong. She looked at her wallet. $14. She needed formula, she needed diapers, she needed milk. She drove to the gourmet market in the rich part of town, La Jolla. It was risky going back to the wealthy neighborhoods, but it was the only store that carried the specific brand Leo needed, and they were open late. She walked into the store. It smelled of fresh bread and expensive cheese. It smelled like her old life. It smelled like safety. She found the formula on the shelf. 2 cans, $120. She stood in the aisle, doing the math. If she returned the diapers she bought yesterday, if she didn't pay the electric bill until Friday, maybe she could make it work. She grabbed the cans. She grabbed a loaf of bread for herself, the cheapest one. She walked to the checkout. Her hands were shaking. She prayed the card wouldn't decline. She prayed for a miracle. She didn't know that the miracle and the nightmare was standing in the next aisle, buying a bottle of vintage Pinot Noir. Dominic ignored the signs, and Ava paid the price. Let that be a lesson to us. When you see something good, you must cherish it. This channel is a good thing. This community is a good thing. Do not make Dominic's mistake. Do not take this for granted. If you have a heart that beats for justice, hit that notification bell. Do not wait until it is too late to show your support. I will see who is loyal in the next chapter. The checkout line at the gourmet market was long. People in designer coats tapped their feet, checking expensive watches, annoyed by the delay. They smelled of confidence and money. At the front of the line, Ava Thorne felt like she was shrinking. "Card declined," the cashier said loudly. She was a young woman popping gum, indifferent to the devastation in those 2 words. "Can you try again?" Ava whispered, her face burning. "Please? It must be a chip error. It worked this morning." The cashier rolled her eyes and swiped the card again. Declined. The woman behind Ava sighed audibly. "Oh, for heaven's sake, just put it back so the rest of us can go home." Ava looked at the formula. 2 cans. That was food for Leo for 2 weeks. If she put them back, what would he eat? Watered-down rice milk? It would make him sick. I'll put 1 back," Ava said, her voice trembling. "Just ring up 1 can, and the bread." "It's still declined, ma'am. Insufficient funds." Ava felt tears prick her eyes. She was 29 years old. She was an architect. She worked 80 hours a week, and she couldn't buy food for her son. The humiliation was a physical weight, crushing her into the floor. "I'm sorry," she choked out. "I'm sorry." She started to push the formula across the counter toward the cashier. "I'll get it." The voice came from behind her. It was deep, smooth, and achingly familiar. It was a voice that used to whisper, "I love you," in the dark. It was a voice she hadn't heard in 4 years. Ava froze. She didn't turn around. She couldn't. A hand reached past her, a hand wearing a platinum Rolex and a tailored suit cuff. A black American Express card was placed on the terminal. "Beep. Approved." "Keep the receipt," the voice said. Ava turned slowly. Dominic Sterling was standing there. He looked older. The boyish softness was gone, replaced by hard lines and a shadow of perpetual exhaustion around his eyes. He was wearing a tuxedo, clearly on his way to some gala. Beside him stood a woman, Isabella, tall, blonde, draped in silk and diamonds, looking at the grocery store like it was a zoo. Dominic was staring at Ava. He looked at her worn coat. He looked at her unwashed hair. He looked at the baby formula on the counter. "Ava?" he whispered. The name hung in the air between them, heavy with 4 years of silence and lies. "Dominic," Ava said, her voice steady, even though her knees were shaking so hard she thought she might fall. "You're here," he said dumbly. "In San Diego?" "I live here." "But you went to Paris," Dominic said, confusion knitting his brow. "You took the money. You left." "I didn't take anything," Ava said. She grabbed the bag of formula. "Thank you for paying. I'll pay you back when I can." She turned to leave. She had to get out. She had to get back to Leo before she fell apart. "Wait!" Dominic grabbed her arm. Ava flinched. She pulled away violently. "Don't touch me." The movement knocked her purse off her shoulder. It hit the floor and spilled open. A wallet, keys, a pacifier, and a photo. It was a school picture of Leo. He was smiling, his dark curls messy, his blue eyes bright. Dominic looked down. He saw the photo. He froze. He looked at the boy in the picture. Then he looked at his own reflection in the glass door of the freezer aisle. It was the same face. "Who is that?" Dominic asked, his voice trembling. "My son," Ava said, snatching the photo from the floor. "How old is he?" 3, she lied. "He looks 4, Dominic said. "He looks exactly 4 years old." He did the math. The breakup. The pregnancy she had allegedly terminated. "You kept it," Dominic whispered. "You took the $5 million? You said you were getting an abortion and you kept the baby?" Isabella stepped forward, wrinkling her nose. "Dom, we're going to be late. Let the charity case go." "Shut up, Isabella," Dominic snapped, never taking his eyes off Ava. "I didn't take your money," Ava shouted. The store went silent. People stopped shopping. "I didn't take $5 million. I didn't take 5 cents. Your father threatened to put me in prison if I didn't leave. He forged my signature. He forged the letter." "That's impossible," Dominic said. "I saw the check. I saw the withdrawal from the trust." "Then check again, Dominic. Go check the account. Go see where that money actually went, because it didn't go to me. Look at me. Do I look like I have $5 million? I just had my card declined for baby formula." She held up the cans. "This is for your son, Dominic, the son you didn't want, the son your father called a liability." Dominic stared at her. He looked at her clothes, clean but threadbare. He looked at her shoes, scuffed and worn. He looked at the desperate pride in her eyes. She wasn't lying. A liar wouldn't have taken the money and run. A liar wouldn't be returning formula in a grocery store at 9 p.m. A liar wouldn't look this broken. "My father," Dominic started, his world tilting on its axis. "Your father is a monster," Ava said, "and you let him win." She turned and ran. She ran out of the automatic doors and into the night. Dominic stood there. The cashier handed him the receipt. He looked at it. Formula. Bread. He looked at Isabella. "Did you know?" he asked quietly. Isabella looked away. "Elias said it was for the best. He said she was trash." "You knew," Dominic said. "You knew I had a son. Dom, think about your reputation." "Get out of my sight," Dominic said. "We're done. Take a cab." He walked out of the store. He didn't chase Ava. He knew she wouldn't talk to him, not tonight. He got into his car. He didn't go to the gala. He drove to the Sterling Pharmaceuticals headquarters. He used his CEO override to enter the building. He went to the finance department. He logged into the secure server. He pulled up the transaction logs from 4 years ago. He found the withdrawal, $5 million, settlement, A. Thorne. But then he clicked on the routing number. He traced where the money went. It didn't go to a bank in Paris. It didn't go to Ava Thorne. It went to a shell company in the Cayman Islands, a shell company owned by Elias Sterling. His father had stolen the money. He had framed Ava. He had exiled his own grandson to poverty while pocketing the cash. Dominic stared at the screen. The rage that filled him was cold and absolute. He printed the documents. He printed the emails. He printed the forged police report he found in his father's private files. He picked up the phone and dialed the number for the board of directors. "This is Dominic Sterling. I need to call an emergency meeting. Tonight. It's about embezzlement, and it's about the CEO. This story is becoming difficult to tell. I can feel the tears in my eyes as I read this. I need your strength to continue. I need to know that I am not crying alone. If you can feel the pain of this mother, if you have a heart of flesh and not of stone, please like the video right now. Give me the courage to finish this story for you." The boardroom of Sterling Pharmaceuticals was silent as a tomb. It was 3 a.m. The 12 members of the board of directors sat around the mahogany table in their pajamas and hastily thrown-on coats. They looked tired. They looked confused. They looked like men who were about to watch a kingdom fall. At the head of the table stood Dominic Sterling. He was still wearing his tuxedo from the night before, but the tie was gone, the top button undone. He looked like a man who had walked through hell and come out holding a torch. Sitting at the far end was Elias Sterling. He was fully dressed in a three-piece suit, sipping espresso, looking bored. "This is preposterous," Elias said, checking his gold watch. "Calling the board in the middle of the night for a domestic squabble? Dominic is emotional. He saw an old girlfriend and lost his composure." "This isn't a squabble, Father," Dominic said, his voice deadly calm. "This is a felony." He threw the stack of papers onto the table. They slid across the polished wood, stopping in front of the chairman. "What is this?" the chairman asked, adjusting his glasses. "Proof," Dominic said. 4 years ago, $5 million was withdrawn from the company's discretionary fund. It was marked as a legal settlement for a non-disclosure agreement with Ava Thorne. Elias rolled his eyes. "We covered this. She was blackmailing us. I protected the company." "She wasn't," Dominic continued, his voice rising, "because the money never went to her. Look at page 3. The chairman flipped the page. He gasped. "The funds were routed to Obsidian Holdings in the Cayman Islands, a shell company. I did a little digging tonight. Obsidian Holdings lists one beneficiary." He pointed a shaking finger at his father. "Elias Sterling." The room erupted. Board members were shouting. Elias stood up, his face losing its color for the first time. "You hacked my personal files?" Elias shouted. I audited the company I run, Dominic roared back. You stole $5 million. You forged a police report to terrify a pregnant woman. You sentenced your own grandson to poverty so you could buy a new yacht. Grandson, the chairman looked up. There is a child? Yes, Dominic said, tears pricking his eyes. His name is Leo. He is 4 years old. He has severe asthma, and last night his mother couldn't afford his medicine because he stole her future. Dominic walked over to his father. He looked at the man he had spent his life trying to impress. You are fired, Dominic whispered. The board will vote you out. The FBI is already on their way. I called them an hour ago. Elias looked at his son with pure hatred. You are destroying the family name. I am saving it, Dominic said. He took his CEO badge off his lapel. He placed it on the table. I resign, Dominic said to the stunned room. I can't work here. Not until this place is clean. Not until I am clean. He walked out. He walked past the security guards who were escorting FBI agents into the building. He walked out into the cool morning air. He was unemployed. He was effectively homeless. He couldn't go back to the estate. But he felt lighter than air. Dominic didn't go to a hotel. He went to Ava's neighborhood. He found the address from the old personnel file he had dug up. It was a crumbling apartment complex near the highway. The paint was peeling. The mailboxes were dented. He parked his car down the street. He didn't want to scare her. He walked to the community garden she had built. It was beautiful, but overgrown. The weeds were choking the vegetables. The fence was broken. It looked like a dream that was slowly dying because its creator was too tired to keep it alive. He took off his tuxedo jacket. He rolled up his sleeves. He started to weed. He worked for hours. He fixed the fence. He watered the plants. He bought bags of mulch from the hardware store down the street and spread them. He sweated through his expensive shirt. He ruined his dress shoes. Residents walked by, staring at the man in the tuxedo pants gardening in the dirt. He ignored them. He worked until his muscles burned and his hands blistered. Around 5 p.m., he saw them. Ava and Leah were walking home from the bus stop. Leo was holding Ava's hand, skipping. He looked happy. He looked healthy, thanks to the formula Dominic had paid for. They stopped at the garden. Ava gasped. Who did this? She asked a neighbor sitting on a bench. Some crazy guy in a suit, the neighbor laughed. He's been here all day. Ava looked around. She saw Dominic sitting under a tree, wiping sweat from his forehead. She walked over to him. She didn't look angry anymore. She looked wary, like a wounded animal approaching a trap. What are you doing? She asked. Penance, Dominic said. He stood up. He didn't try to hug her. He didn't try to touch Leo. I quit, he said. I turned him in. He's going to prison, Ava, for a long time. Ava stared at him. You destroyed your family for me? I destroyed a lie for you, for him. He looked at Leo. The boy was hiding behind Ava's leg, peeking out with big blue eyes. Hi, Dominic said, waving a dirty hand. I like your shoes. Leo looked at his Velcro sneakers. They make me run fast. I bet they do. Dominic, Ava said, her voice softening, why are you here? I rented an apartment, Dominic said, pointing to a building across the street. Unit 4B. It's small, it has rats, but it's close to you. You're moving here? I'm not asking for forgiveness, Dominic said quickly. I'm not asking to be your husband. I want to be useful. I want to fix the garden. I want to carry your groceries. I want to pay for the inhalers. He reached into his pocket. He pulled out a check. It wasn't for $5 million. It was for $5,000. This is what I have left from my personal savings after the lawyers froze the assets, he said. Take it, please, for Leo. Ava looked at the check. She looked at the garden. She looked at the man who had traded a penthouse for a rat-infested apartment just to be near her. She took the check. You missed a spot, she said, pointing to a patch of weeds near the tomatoes. Dominic smiled. It was the first real smile he had felt in 4 years. I'll get right on it. We are nearing the end. Many have clicked away, but you are still here. That tells me you are special. You are not like the others who have short attention spans and cold hearts. You are deep. You are loyal. I want to recognize you. If you are still watching, comment "Love wins" below. Let me see the faces of the ones who truly care. 6 months later. The community garden was no longer just a garden. It was a landmark. There were new benches painted bright blue. There was a solar-powered irrigation system. There was a small playground with a slide that didn't rust and a sandbox filled with fresh, clean sand. And there was a man who tended to it every single day. Dominic Sterling, former CEO, current freelance consultant, and neighborhood handyman, was on his knees planting hydrangeas. He wore jeans with grass stains and a t-shirt that had seen better days. He looked younger. He looked happier. He looked like a man who finally understood what it meant to build something real. "Faster, Daddy! Push me faster!" Dominic stood up, wiping his hands on his jeans. He walked over to the swing set where Leo was kicking his legs, his face flushed with joy. "You got it, Speed Racer," Dominic said, giving him a gentle push. Leo shrieked with laughter. "I'm flying!" Ava watched from the bench. She had a sketchbook in her lap, but she wasn't drawing. She was watching them. It had been a long 6 months. Dominic hadn't pushed. He hadn't asked to move in. He hadn't asked for a date. He just showed up. He fixed her leaky faucet on a Tuesday at midnight. He drove them to doctor appointments, sitting in the waiting room while Leo got his allergy shots, holding Ava's hand when she was scared. He paid for the special groceries without making a scene, slipping gift cards into her purse when she wasn't looking. He had become the partner she had always wanted, just without the title. "Ava?" She looked up. Dominic was walking toward her, holding a bottle of water. He was sweating, dirt smudged on his cheek. "You look deep in thought," he said, handing it to her. "I was thinking about blueprints," she said. "Yeah? Designing a new garden?" "No," Ava said. She opened her sketchbook. "Designing a house." She turned the book around. It was a drawing of a small house, not a mansion, not a penthouse. A house with a porch, a garden, and a room with a big window for an architect's studio, and a room with a race car bed. "It's beautiful," Dominic said, tracing the lines with a calloused finger. "Who was the client?" "Us," Ava said. Dominic froze. "What?" "I got a commission," Ava said, a smile tugging at the corners of her mouth. "A big one. The city wants me to redesign the entire park district. It pays well, enough for a down payment." She looked at him, her eyes shining. "But I can't build it alone," she said. "I need a project manager. I need someone who knows how to handle budgets and permits and someone who knows how to plant hydrangeas." Dominic stared at the drawing. He stared at her. "Are you saying—" "I'm saying the probation is over," Ava whispered. "I'm saying you earned it, Dominic. You earned him. You earned me." Dominic dropped to his knees in front of her. He didn't care who was watching. He didn't care about the dirt. "I don't have a ring," he said, his voice choking up. "I sold the watches. I sold everything. I have nothing left but my name." "I don't want a ring," Ava said, taking his dirty hand in hers. "I want a partner. I want a father for my son. I want the man who stood in the rain and weeded a garden just to be close to me. That man is worth more than any diamond." Dominic pressed his forehead against their joined hands. "I will never leave you again, I swear it. I will spend every day making up for the 4 years I missed." "I know," Ava said. "I believe you." "Daddy," Leo yelled from the swing, "look at me." Dominic stood up. He pulled Ava up with him. He wrapped his arms around her, burying his face in her neck, breathing in the scent of her that he had missed for 4 years. "Let's go look at him," Dominic said. They walked over to the swing set together. They stood side by side, watching their son fly toward the sky. Dominic Sterling had lost a fortune. He had lost a title. He had lost his father to a prison cell. But as he put his arm around Ava's waist and felt her lean into him, he realized he had finally made the deal that mattered. He had built a life that no one could steal. As Dominic and Ava walk into their new future, I hope you will not walk away from me. If you leave this video without subscribing, we might never meet again. The algorithm might hide me from you. Do you want to lose this family? If you value what we have, secure your place here. Subscribe, turn on the bell, and never let us be strangers. I love you even when you are silent, but I love you more when you are here.